So we've been going to Kenya for 10 years now. We began with a focus on leadership training and helping a network of churches get established there. It's because when we started, somebody else helped us. So it's been important for me always to remember that we had help at the start. And so we've been able to help this group for quite some time now. So we've been doing mostly leadership training, but we've also been doing support for church planting, and we've been doing introductions to them for some social projects, and we've been cultivating a network of churches. So there's anywhere from 50 to 100 churches that we're working with there. They're poor. They're poor churches in the slums of Nairobi, the capital, but also in smaller centers as well as in rural areas. So we got started because I met Ishmael at a conference in Germany in 2007. And he heard what we were doing and he said, "We need that." I wasn't too sure. He kept calling me for about 3 years. I wasn't sure that this is really what we should be doing. But one day he kept calling and I thought, well, to do this, it would take a persistent person. I think we have one. Ishmael is a bold, outgoing person. He is not afraid. He loves to start things. He has energy, and he is just not afraid. So his persistence and boldness, you just can't help but notice those things. He's married to a woman named Moline, and I had some fun with her on this trip. I was remembering a country song, Abilene, Abilene. And I said, you know what? If you lived in the U.S., your name could be a name for a country song. So I changed the words a little bit, and I sang to her when we had dinner at her house. Moline, Moline, prettiest girl I've ever seen. And she got the biggest bang out of it. So we had a good time with she and Ishmael and their boys. They have 4 boys. I have become very connected with Ishmael. So when I am there, we talk, I hug him, and he calls me, he's not able to call me by Gord, and they tend to use your last name. So he would call me Martin. Lots of Africans call me Martin. But he calls me mature brother. But when he says it, it sounds like this, mature brother. There was quite a bit of uncertainty about whether we should be going or not. Because of COVID, not everybody thought it was a great idea. But by about the end of July, Doug and I together decided, let's do it, let's go. It's a 13-hour flight from Toronto to Addis Ababa, which is the capital of Ethiopia, and another 2-hour flight from there to Nairobi. We stayed at the hotel that we normally stay at, but they have improved it quite a lot. It was really quite nice. There was one thing that I had that I've never had before. I had a mouse in my room. And I never was able to catch him, but, and I can't say that we made friends exactly, but we accommodated each other. From my window, I could look out and see a very busy street corner. And if I looked the other way, I could see a busy set of stalls that were like an outdoor market. So this is the place that we've been every time we've gone. It's been 10 years since Vision Ministries Kenya got started. They were very eager to have a celebration, and they know how to celebrate. They're very distinct. They sing and dance and had special singers and special dancers who came in. So it was a long day. We started at about 10 o'clock in the morning, including food. We finished at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. They had a 10-year celebration cake, beautifully decorated. It was a very special day. The second series of trainings that we did was in an area called Kaijado, which is the area of the Maasai tribe. The Maasai people are cattle herders, but the women build the houses and they look after the goats and the sheep. So that's the group that we were meeting with. It's a very dry part of the country. And we had connected with an organization called Impact Hope, another organization in Canada. And they partnered together with Vision Ministries Kenya to drill a well. It was drilled just before we went. They went down 275 meters. I'm talking meters before they hit water. When they hit water, I'll tell you, there were tears, there was crying, there was joy. They drilled last November, almost a year ago, the first time. They went down 170 meters and they just got dust. It was very discouraging. So Impact Hope, a lot of credit to them. They went back to the drawing board. They raised some more money. And Ishmael went back to his people in Nairobi to say, okay, where should we be drilling this well? And they shifted the location. And this time, they drilled for 2 days. They went down 250 meters and found nothing. They wanted to quit. And Ishmael was distressed. He said that he went out and prayed on the mountain that night. He said, God, you can't let us down. How are we going to tell these people that you are the God who provides? They all know we've been trying to drill this well. We've got nothing but dust. He said, defend your name. And he was crying out in the middle of the night. The next morning, Saturday morning, he sent me a video clip. At about 10:15 in the morning, they were praying beside the drilling rig. And about 20 minutes later, he sent me another video, and there was water all over the place. Were they excited? It was good quality water. We drank some of it when we were there. But when we arrived, they were all lined up in 2 rows to welcome us, so that we could walk up in between those rows of Maasai people, walk up to where the well was, where we celebrated and prayed and were glad together. So I've never seen people here get together and pray while a well is being drilled. We just expect there to be water there. But over there, it's not the same. These people are accustomed to carrying water. Children and women will carry water on their heads for 4 or 5 kilometers. So for them, prayer is the first line of resort, not the last one. So for them, there is a desperation about prayer that we don't know much about. Every time I go, I'm struck again by the poverty. Kenya is not the poorest country in Africa, but they still have a lot of poverty. They have wealth and poverty. But we have been working with the poorest people. So when we are there, I'm struck by the sincerity of their faith, the intensity of their prayer, the vigor of their worship. Those are all obvious. You just can't miss it. So we did our leadership training there. We celebrated 10 years of VMK again in Kaijado. More dancing, but this time they danced the Maasai way, not the way they do it in Nairobi. And what I always bring home is that I say to myself, I can't forget this. I came home and I sat down with Heather at the kitchen table and I said, this kitchen is so big. When God fed the children of Israel, he gave them manna. And the ones who gathered a lot didn't have any left over, and the ones who gathered a little had enough. That when God feeds people, there is equality. The shocking inequality is just hard to swallow. One of the things that I was very much struck with on this trip was how necessary it is to provide social benefits for people who are poor. They need help. It's one thing to do leadership training, but what people are aching for is practical help. Yes, we want to do leadership training, but we have to ramp up the social benefits that we're providing along the way. So I've been talking with Impact Hope about this already since I've been back. I had breakfast with Brad Wilson about this, saying we have to increase the effort that we're making on developing social programs, and we have to find a way to do it so that we can provide benefits for both men and women, because God made us equal. That when He feeds people, He feeds them so that everybody has enough. I believe that that should be our guiding principle. It's not a good thing for us to say, well, they're poor and we're rich and that's just the way it is. There's not much we can do about it. We can't fix all the problems, but we can definitely do something. And so we're spending $50,000 a year for the next 5 years just to provide basic support to help Vision Ministries Kenya function. In addition to that, I would like to ramp up the support that Impact Hope is providing. This year, they spent a lot of money on that well. I would love for us to go back to Impact Hope again and say, what are the next projects? Because it's fine to have a well, but we don't have a pump or a motor or solar panels to run it. So right now, that's the next big need. One of the concerns we've had all along is that the people that we have been working with have not been able to contribute much financially. So local financial support has been very hard to come by. This well has the potential to provide local funding. We've never been able to do that before. I mentioned earlier about Impact Hope. They used to be called Missionary Ventures Canada. So they do projects in quite a number of countries, but it's really because we have introduced them to Kenya that they are working there. So we've made a partnership agreement with them here in Canada that they will sponsor projects and raise money for those projects because they do things that we don't do. We provide leadership training. We have experience at developing networks of churches and church planting, but they have experience at developing social projects, providing microfinancing, providing agricultural support, providing wells. And those are things that people need. So it's valuable for us to have this relationship with Impact Hope here in Canada. They're headquartered in Guelph, because they are able to do things in Kenya that we are not able to do.